Hello and welcome back to On the Fly. Today we're going to do part 5 of our off-season review, and this is going to be another trade between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Leafs traded Philip Hallander as well as a 2023 7th round pick in exchange for Jared McCann. Overall, I think the Leafs did win this trade. It's another one of these Seattle scare picks where Pittsburgh knows that McCann's going, although I still do think that they should have protected him. But they are now they are able to protect a Brandon Tanev. So I think it's a decent trade for the Leafs. Not so great for the Penguins. I'm not entirely sold on it. Hallander is the 5th ranked prospect in the Leafs system, which doesn't mean a lot. But he's 21, so he still has room to grow. I don't see why Pittsburgh makes this deal. It doesn't make a ton of sense, as they're pretty well right now trying to fight for a playoff spot. And then potentially compete for the cup. I don't know why they'd even do this, but I think it's because of that. They don't want to lose McCann for nothing. I still think they should protect him over Tanev all day, but I mean, it's the Penguins. Who knows what they're thinking. And then for the Leafs, Dubas wins another trade. Obviously, Jared McCann, he will be the third-line center, most likely replacing Nick Foligno, although Foligno plays everywhere, as well as I think Foligno, if he does come back, will take Hyman's spot on the first line to try and kind of fight off the other teams or the other first lines. But overall, I mean, it does make sense for the Leafs to do this. Even asking Pittsburgh's a gutsy move unless they went to them. Obviously, with Burke having relations in Toronto, with formerly working for Sportsnet, it kind of makes sense that Pittsburgh and Toronto would be a little bit more linked than normal. But I still believe the Leafs won this trade without a doubt. McCann is a great player. He was apparently not going to be protected by the Penguins and left exposed, which is why they ended up trading him. As well as rumors circulating that they're also not going to protect Tristan Jarry. Obviously, he didn't have the best postseason this year. But, I mean, of course, they got DeSmith now, so that's a mess of a system. But I mean, when the Penguins have a plan, they stick to it, and it will be interesting to see what their protection list is for that's coming out tomorrow. So look for that video coming out sometime tomorrow. Moving on with the Leafs now, we'll start talking about them a little bit more. They now have to use the 7-3-1 protection list. So before I had them at 8D, obviously their top 4 forwards with Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander. Now they have to expand that by 3, so obviously McCann will be the one, unless they're trading for him for nothing, which doesn't make a lot of sense. They will have to expose one of their D, either looking now as if it'll be either Brody or Justin Hall. I believe Hall will be the one exposed, and I think that's who the Kraken might take. It's either him or Dermott as of now, I think, is kind of the consensus. I'd be very surprised if they left McCann on eligible. It doesn't make sense not to protect him, as if you're going to trade for a guy, you typically protect him unless they value McCann more than, say, Dermott. So overall, I think this is a different trade. I'm not sure why the Penguins did this. I've said this a few times, but it doesn't line up with their goals. So look for Pittsburgh maybe to go rebuild now. I see, especially with Burke in the front office now, I think there is a possibility that more of these Pittsburgh-Toronto trades might happen. Obviously, Pittsburgh is starting to age a little bit more, not as talented as they used to be, but they do still have that veteran leadership that can cost a contending team like the Leafs a lot of prospects, picks. But overall, if they do want to trade, I see a guy like McCann, who is a really good player, lots of leadership, obviously being the assistant behind Crosby. But overall, I mean, there is a very strong likelihood that Pittsburgh is going into a rebuild, and I think this is the first domino to tip. Unfortunately for Penguins fans, you guys are going to have to wait a little bit, but it'll be once this expansion draft's over and you're allowed to trade again. I think it will be a different game for Pittsburgh. Maybe starting to regret that Kapanen trade. Although, speaking of the Kapanen trade, Hallander did end up coming over to the Leafs because of Kasperi Kapanen trade back in 2018. So, actually 2020 is what it was. He was drafted in 2018. But overall, I think it is a good trade for the Leafs. Not so good for the Penguins. But always, there is another gear that Pittsburgh can set into, and who knows what this guy becomes in 5-10 years when he starts to age like the rest of them. So now we will grade them. I think as of now, the Leafs did win this trade, so I will give them probably about an A. But of course, if Hallander does become a superstar or whatever, obviously this A will turn back down to a lower mark. But I think McCann is a great pickup for them. Well worth the price of losing Justin Hall over Dermott, because I still believe Dermott will be the one who gets picked by Seattle. I don't think they'll go after Hall, because Hall is a little bit older, and I think just because of that, they might go with Dermott. And Dermott does need a fresh start out of Toronto. He has been struggling a little bit, but overall, I think that's kind of where the Leafs will lean, is to protect McCann. And then as for Pittsburgh, I'm going to give them probably about a B, which for me is sort of straight down the middle. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. I think if they don't make any other moves, that goes down to about a C. But if they do make moves and they go into that rebuild, which I'm sort of predicting now, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to trade a McCann for pretty much jack squat if you're not have a plan in mind. So I think overall, if they can go into that rebuild that they're looking for, I think this goes from about a B to an A, just because it's sort of the first domino to tip. You've seen it with Detroit when they started trading their star players. But overall, I think it is a great trade for the Leafs, and the possibility for Pittsburgh is there as well. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. If you liked it, drop a like. If you really liked it, consider subscribing. Tell all your friends. Leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with me. Until next time, see ya.